You know what, MP, there is a lot going on in the world right now, and let's go ahead and add this one to the list because CBS put out a report that the FBI has increased domestic surveillance in the U.S. Senior White House reporter Jennifer Jacobs wrote on X, quote, FBI's Kash Patel has increased efforts to monitor possible domestic sleeper cells linked to Hezbollah since Israel's offensive began earlier this month. So here with more, we have Kyle Shideler. He's a senior analyst for the Center for Security Policy. So Kyle, thanks so much for coming on the show. So my question to you is, okay, we've probably known that there are sleeper cells in the country for quite some time. So why are we getting this information right now? Is this a ramp up of new surveillance, or is this something that has just been under the radar for a while that they're pulling back into the news cycle right now?
Well, one of the things to pay attention to is the tricky semantics of sleeper cell. When you're talking about a sleeper cell, are you talking about a group of terrorists who completely blend in with the American mainstream, are not otherwise observable, and then just one day receive a coded radio message and go blow things up? That's usually not how it works. I'm not saying it can't happen, but typically what we see from cells inside the United States linked to terror groups is that they're actually very active. They're usually engaging in propaganda. They're engaging in fundraising. They're engaging in recruitment. Especially when you're talking about Hezbollah, they're doing a lot to move money, smuggling cigarettes, producing synthetic weed. There are a whole bunch of criminal activities that terror groups like Hezbollah are conducting inside the United States all the time. One of the things they like to do, buy up U.S. military hardware like night vision goggles and ship them back to Lebanon. So there are a lot of things these groups are typically doing where they would run afoul of law enforcement and you could interdict them pretty much at will. The question is, when do we choose to do that, and how closely are we watching?
So do you think that the CBS report is a genuine scoop, or is this a strategic leak linked to something larger going on?
I think my instinct is it's a strategic leak. Someone inside the FBI or DOJ either wants to make sure that everybody knows that they're doing their job, which part of your job is not letting everybody know what you're doing. So fail on that part. But so there's that, right? CYA. We've got it covered. Don't worry about it. There might be some of that. The other, I think, is to play into a narrative that if Donald Trump should decide to act, we are likely to be hit here. I think that's the subtext of the timing of the leak, which is that people are concerned that Donald Trump might do something. Here's a piece of data that might turn people off of encouraging Donald Trump to act.
So if we look at just what the American people should be paying attention to, right? If we're just trying to go beyond the headlines here, what would you say, what kind of attacks would they be capable of, and what should the American people actually be looking out for here?
Well, as I said, most Hezbollah cells in the United States are fundraising and propaganda cells, but there's good evidence that many of them do have some level of military training. What they would be capable of could vary broadly. Anything from large-scale vehicular IEDs to small-scale small arms attacks, suicide vest bombings, anything in between. But historically, that's not what we've seen from Iran when they try to operate inside the United States. Historically, they've tried to usually come up with some kind of proxy veil. We saw, for example, when they wanted to target the Saudi ambassador in Washington, D.C. a few years back, they tried to hire one of the Mexican drug cartels. Bad news for them. The guy they tried to hire turned out to be the DEA. Similar situation in the attempted assassination against Donald Trump, where you have individuals inside Iran contacting individuals who put themselves out to be hitmen, who were not Iranian agents. They were not trained Hezbollah actors. So I do question if Iran has to use those kinds of assets in order to conduct an attack on the president. How strong is their infrastructure in the United States, or is it just the case that they don't want to waste infrastructure on a low probability success attack?
So that's my question too. I mean, we've been hearing about this for a while. I mean, attempted assassination of President Trump. This is coming up now. Obviously, we're in the middle of this. The whole world is watching what's going to happen when it comes to the U.S.'s decision here. I guess I wonder, I mean, you see these reports and you think, oh gosh, it doesn't sound good. But we haven't really seen anything from them that's been very successful or big or made any kind of splash. So what would they want to do now?
Well, I think you have to give some credit, and I'm not one who does this very often, but you have to give some credit to U.S. intelligence on breaking up some of those incidents, like the Saudi ambassador plot, where they were able to interject people into the plot and to break it up ahead of time, which is actually what you want from your intelligence community when it comes to foreign actors and foreign terrorist organizations. So that's a rare W for them. But so, there's always the question of what don't we know, right? We've seen a couple of failed plots. Of course, the things that you see are the failed plots, right? You don't see the successful plots until they happen. So what is occurring that we don't know? Matt, you mentioned in the beginning the border being wide open for 4 years under the Biden administration. As a matter of fact, we know that under Biden, DHS actually let people into the country who said that they were Hezbollah. And they did not detain them out of fear that the individual may catch COVID while in detainment. So we know that there's exposures that we just don't have covered. And we hope the guys in the FBI do in Washington, but I don't have a high degree of confidence in that.
Yeah, heaven forbid anybody claiming to be with a terrorist organization go out and get COVID. We could never allow such a thing. We've seen some online chatter about potential cyber attacks that might be coming into the country. Do you see that happening? How much of a real threat assessment should we look at this?
It's certainly possible. How much of that infrastructure exists since the Israeli attack began, I don't know. But the Iranians do have a highly qualified cyber capability. They have hit us before in a number of different areas. And we have such a vast internet infrastructure that there's always some target, whether it's at the lowest local level or at the federal level. So, you can cause a great deal of havoc in this country through cyber attacks, just going down to the level of the county government and attacking, a local water or sewer waste treatment plant. And in fact, that is something that has occurred in the past. So we have just a lot of really soft targets when it comes to the cyberspace. So I have to consider it as a possibility. What I don't know is, are those Iranian hackers very comfortably in their basements with all of their monitors up doing their work? Or are they keeping their head down in the bunker lest the Israelis drop a bomb on them? That I don't.
There's also the question of if you think this intelligence could be used, and more like it maybe coming, could be used to justify a strike on Iran.
Maybe, but I don't think so. People have been warning about Hezbollah activities in the United States for decades. What we saw under the Obama administration was a strong effort to suppress any evidence that Hezbollah was active in the Western Hemisphere, because they were afraid that it would interrupt an Iran nuclear deal. For example, the DEA had been working on a major case called Operation Cassandra, detailing Hezbollah's role in drug trafficking, money laundering, and the like. And they were ready to go forward, and the Obama administration put the halt to it because they didn't want it to interfere with the Iran deal. So my suggestion is that I believe leaks coming out of the if you will, the deep state, the administrative state, the intelligence community will mostly be negative in an attempt to prevent the United States from taking action vis-a-vis Iran.
Well, we've been seeing a lot of back and forth within the intelligence community, whether you believe that Tulsi Gabbard was given false information. And, there's so much going on within the Trump administration right now. This whole story started because the FBI and Kash Patel, they had this report out with CBS. How do you view what's happening, the steps that are being taken right now within the intelligence community itself?
There's probably a degree of disagreement in and amongst the intelligence community, which frankly is what you want. You want them doing their assessments, coming up with different data, and then, hashing it out amongst each other. So I'm not surprised if, CIA is seeing different things than ODNI and the like. I will say traditionally, as I said, the intelligence community has been against action in Iran and has taken great steps to leak things that would prevent action against Iran, going all the way back to 2003 and the National Intelligence Assessment on the Iranian nuclear capability. But at the end of the day, I think, and Donald Trump has made this evidently clear, at the end of the day, the president of the United States is going to look at all of the available intelligence to him, military intelligence, signals intelligence, electronics intelligence, what little human intelligence we have, the information we get from the Israelis and we get from other regional partners. He's going to look at all of that, and he's going to have to make his own decision. And a lot of that intelligence is going to be contradictory. A lot of that intelligence is going to be biased one way or the other. And he's going to have to wade through all of that. He's going to be the man who has to make the call. And I don't envy him having to do that.
So let's zoom out a little bit and just think about, everything that's been going on since the election when it comes to all these agencies. As you know, us on the show, by the way, we should say Kyle's one of our favorite people. I know Kyle in real life even, or at least on many chats. When we're concerned here with the mandate being implemented, right, of the president, of everything that everyone fought for to win in 2024. And a central part of that is reforming the administrative state. And a central part of that is reforming the real deep state, or the intelligence agencies, which have been a problem in many ways for such a long time. So do you see any bright spots, any good things that are happening there? And what's your take on where we're at?
Not yet. I mean, they're talking about massive bureaucracies that are very difficult to move. And I just haven't seen the kind of personnel changes and, frankly, closures of offices, restructuring of agencies and capabilities that I know I was hopeful for that we would see when President Trump came into office. We just haven't seen that thus far. The president's appointees are still trying to get their feet underneath them. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult running one of these agencies because, on the one hand, all of your power and influence can only be exacted through the personnel in the agency, the bureaucrats, whom you cannot trust. And so, on the one hand, you want to be relevant to the president. You want to be able to provide capability to the president when he calls upon you. And on the other hand, you can't trust the people that you rely upon to do that. So how do you strike that balance? I would say the one shiny, happy place in the U.S. government right now is the U.S. State Department. I've been very impressed with their restructuring efforts. But on the intelligence community side, both defensively in terms of like the FBI and DHS, and offensively in terms of like the CIA and the like, I haven't seen the kind of restructuring that I know a lot of people were hoping for, myself included.
Well, I mean, amen to that. And in state, we have to say, I mean, we've seen actual, agencies that censoring outfit they have just go bye-bye. They've done some amazing things. Well, we have you too. I'm curious your thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard this week. I mean, I don't put any stock on these reports, but there was a Politico report that came out saying she was snubbed because she wasn't invited to this Camp David meeting. But even the Politico article said, it was last minute and a lot of people couldn't make it anyway. And then there were people saying she's back in the good graces of Trump. She could get back in the good graces. Of course, Trump mentioned her when her name came up with that report about Iran's nukes. And she said, no, I said the same thing the president said, right? So I just look at this all like, obviously people are fighting behind the scenes, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts on Tulsi and where she's at.
I can't speak to that exact situation. I somewhat suspect, especially because it was a congressional testimony that led to her getting in trouble. These are one of these examples where the bureaucrats can very easily set up a political appointee. They put together the testimony based on what they claim the agency knows. The director has to go out and make the statement, and then it all falls apart on them, or it contradicts the president, and they're left holding the bag. And that's why you need to have really aggressive political appointees who are going to control their agencies. They're going to get good people underneath them to drive policy down and bring good data up. I'm not sure that we have seen a lot of those lower level appointees to get in there and control some of these agencies the way that we need to take place yet. And that's putting a lot of our higher level appointees like Tulsi Gabbard at best at the mercy of her agency. So that would be the most positive spin I could put on it.
We're gonna take all the positive spins here on a Friday night, Kyle. We've heard firsthand just how difficult it's been for those that are actually trying to go up against the deep state and make some significant changes within the intelligence community. Thanks so much for all your insights tonight.
My pleasure.